Donald Trump, with a fearless attitude, has taken the trade war to a new level. From China to Russia, he not only threatens, but acts as if the entire world is a gamble he can bet on without thinking. But can this savior really protect America, or is he just digging a hole for himself and the global economy? Is there any country strong enough to stop Donald Trump? The answer is probably no, because Trump does not know the concept of faltering. He is like a cowboy in the economic world, swinging the tariff card and embargo stick whenever he feels dissatisfied. And of course, the global playground is no longer simply a place for trade, but has become a political battlefield, where Trump fights with all major opponents, whether China or Russia. It is clear that his goal does not stop at causing trouble for a certain country. China, Trump's archenemy, and Russia, the new opponent, are caught up in his stimulating game. The message Trump sent did not need to be said much more. America, under my watch, will not back down from anyone, even though this could cause both the economy and financial markets to stagger in a storm of tariffs and bans. April 2, 2025, Donald Trump called it Liberation Day for the U.S. economy. But instead of breaking the shackles, he pulled the entire country into a trap of his own making by imposing a 104% tax on all goods imported from China. Well, not partly, but whole. Reason? It sounds serious. Protecting the U.S. economy from unfair trade practices. Sound familiar? Trump's catchphrase every time he needs an excuse to strike. Result? Americans go to the supermarket like they're on a treasure hunt, because everything from televisions to instant noodles have skyrocketed in price. What about Wall Street? Like being thrown a grenade. In exactly 48 hours after Trump's victory, $5 trillion, 0 cents, evaporated from the stock market like it never existed. China, of course, does not sit still. Beijing retaliated with a slap, imposing 84% tariffs on American goods. The trade war suddenly became a win-win between two giants, with the winners being working people, small businesses, and American voters themselves. To be fair, Trump did not protect America. He is playing a game of arson, and that fire is burning down the economic bridge between the two powers. Looking back, it feels like he didn't bring a fire extinguisher, but sometimes he was the one holding the lighter. On April 15, 2025, Donald Trump struck again, this time against Russia, specifically extending the ban on Russian ships docking in U.S. ports, a decision that originally existed during the Biden era but was upgraded by Trump in a familiar style, noisy, dramatic, and without bothering to calculate the consequences. He announced his goal was to target the shadow fleet, Russian oil tankers suspected of both transporting energy and also carrying out reconnaissance missions. Trump did not miss the opportunity to make himself stand out. Russia, according to him, is a direct threat with American security. And he, of course, is a superhero ready to take action to quell the rebellion. But he didn't stop there. Trump also threatened a series of financial sanctions, heavy taxes, and even blocking the banking system if Russia did not sign peace in Ukraine. It sounds like he's forcing Moscow to sit at the negotiating table, but the way he does it is strange, to the point of being difficult to understand. Because at the same time, Trump withdrew aid to Ukraine. Yes, one hand forced Russia to negotiate, the other hand stopped blood transfusion to the attacked party. If this is a peace strategy, then it is true that only Trump can think of it, kicking the negotiating table and withdrawing the seats of allies. After all, Trump is not against Russia or for peace. He was just reenacting a new type of Cold War play, where he was the director, the threat, and always the main character, no matter the stage on fire. Trump doesn't really fight to win, he hit to acting. And the two reluctant partners are China and Russia. With China, Trump doesn't just throw taxes on consumer goods or common electronics. No, he aimed straight technology hard, from AI to semiconductor chips to renewable energy. The attack is not only direct, but also roundabout. Tricks, imposing taxes on countries that are buying Russian oil, knowing full well that China is importing it. 19% of crude oil from Russia in 2024, an indirect hit but as painful as a direct hit. What about Russia? Even though we weren't directly slapped with taxes, we were still hit hard because the price of Brent oil, which feeds the Russian budget, plummeted below 70 USD/barrel. While more 30% of the Russian budget dependent on oil and gas, this is like being slowly strangled. The ruble depreciated, inflation escalated, and interest rates went through the roof. Russia was pulled into a chess game without even understanding what game he was playing. Trump's tactics are as clear as day, pushing both China and Russia into a dire situation, not to solve the crisis, but to create image of a strong president. Forcing one guy, hurting the other guy, then pretending to extend a friendly hand to both of them. Trump's gamble is not to save America, but to inflate his own bottomless ego. What about the American people? It's just that the audience reluctantly sits and watches prices rise, the economy is in turmoil, and Mr. Trump is busy playing the hard role. Trump doesn't play by the rules. He didn't just want to win, he wanted to division everything, and the whole world is his playground. With China, he did not hesitate to break global supply chain. Target? Forcing China to sit at the negotiating table with conditions favorable to the US. But, like all Trump strategies, the price is too high. When you rip up international trade contracts, the whole world, including America, must bear the consequences. What about China? They simply continue to survive in this game, even moving to find new partners. With Russia, Trump again played the draw tactic, use Ukraine as a bargaining chip. It seemed like he would make a peaceful move, but no. His said that it was ready to relax the embargo, but in reality it continued to drag on punishments, and indifferent in its so-called strategy. Each time the negotiation period is extended, Trump sows more seeds of division, not only between countries, but right within American politics. So what price do Americans have to pay? They weren't just pushed into the scene, prices escalate, but also have to face it. American businesses suffered losses. Because of the loss of the market, production costs skyrocketed. Result? One obvious consequence. Trump's policies not only divide the world, they are also killed the US economy by his own hand. And as usual, Trump is at it again, deny responsibility. What game is Trump playing? It's simple. He is inflamed populism, paints the image of a strong man, someone who is not afraid of anyone, regardless of any consequences. These promise about bringing jobs back to America sounds appealing, but the reality is he doesn't have any long-term strategy, nice allied coordination, nothing. It's a promotional game, and whoever is willing to buy it can buy it. But when it comes time to pay, no one knows what the outcome will be. It is not only China and Russia that are victims. EU and Canada, not too good either. Trump's tariff bluff was not only attack opponents, but also hurting even allies of America. It's easy to suffocate partners just because they want to appear strong, but the result is that everyone is caught up in an economic war that no one can win. And what about that? Trump is like, use Russia as a hostage in your negotiation game. Sometimes they threaten, sometimes they invite negotiations to reach the agreement of the century, but will that agreement really benefit the US? Or is it just a scam? Personal trick? Statements like, "I am very angry with Putin," only complicate things. The so-called negotiate Trumps is no different. On the other hand, he smiled brightly and tried to negotiate. Only one thing is clear. Trump is using a populist strategy to turn the whole world into his chessboard, regardless of consequences and reality. One thing Trump certainly did not foresee: the Russia-China alliance. Commercial relations between these two countries skyrocketed up to $244.8 billion USD by 2024, although the increase will be somewhat slow. Simple reason: Bank of China still before secondary embargo from the US. But nonetheless, the flow of money and goods still flows steadily, and that is something no one can deny. Economic expert Sophie Donnet also astutely commented that Trump's trade war is an accidental blow pushing Russia into China's arms. And so it was none other than Trump create an anti-American alliance, a product that was completely not in his plan, but it emerged strongly as an inevitable consequence of Trump's wrong strategy. Who would have thought that it was him, rival creator, America's most powerful force this century? Actually, Beijing didn't want it completely dependent on Russian oil. They know that being too dependent on a partner like Moscow can put them at a disadvantage in the long term. Still, Moscow, it's not fun to do. Juniors belong to Xi Jinping. Russia has its own ambitions, and they don't want to suffer China manipulation. Yet, while Trump thought that trade war will cause these conflicts to explode, he said, by chance, make these two countries even more come closer together than the average oftentimes, since the Russian-Chinese alliance not only exists, but also exists durable than when faced with pressure from the US. Trump may think he is break this alliance, but actually he nurture a much bigger monster, a relationship that is no longer so easy to break. So, what is Trump's achievement? China finally got to the negotiating table at the end of April, but the question is whether anything will actually come of it, other than trade off global stability for a short-term win. With that, Ukrainian peace remains distant, becoming more and more obscure. While Trump continued threatening and punish, he seemed to forget that these threats only made things worse. Consequences? Globalists' right suffer from Trump's short-term policy. Supply chain interrupted, recession risk, economic growth increased. The American people are facing high inflation, and 60% of the population is worried about the escalating cost of living. Not only that, EU prepared to retaliate. America's position in the international arena is increasingly weakening. Chess game Trump's seems to have been venture excessively, and the result is probably just that, loss, not victory. Trump's "don't bother anyone" attitude is actually just a double-edged sword. He is as confident as he is controller everything, but in fact, his policy is nothing more than a risky gamble. And now the price to pay is not just losing, but chaos that Trump caused. Trump is not the builder of a new order. In fact, he was just being smashed an inherent system tangled from before, and then clapped his hands to celebrate because he thought he was the winner. But actually, he did nothing but add more fuel to the fire, creating irreparable cracks on the global playing field.